had confused it with just the credit card economy, because that was the popularly understood conception of what a less cash or a cashless economy itself would be. There was, of course, no great opportunity to explain in detail because of what happened in the session. But this whole debate has been taking place outside. I remember in the year 1996, we had a conference of our party in Mumbai. Uday Hills from there, I wonder whether he remembers it. And we thought it was a very important conference because Mr. Advani at that conference abruptly announced that Mr. Vajpayee would be our prime ministerial candidate. Now, we thought this was a great event, but rather than highlighting this news, the session was in news for another reason. And some leading newspapers made fun of it for the fact that a political party, while organizing its sessions, had purchased 7 mobile phones. Mobile phones had just come in, and they were being considered a symbol of luxury. And many of us were photographed in the newspapers using a mobile phone itself. And they thought that this was very big news. Now, if somebody in 1996 or even 2000 had suggested that in the next 1 decade, almost every other poor man in this country would be carrying a mobile phone, 10 to 15 years ago, people would have laughed at him. But that did happen. And I do believe that in the context of the demonetization, where the obvious attempt was that the extent of paper currency must be replaced by a digitized economy, the reaction of some exhibited the same kind of ignorance that we saw in 1996 or the year 2000 with regard to the telephony. This expansion is going to take place much faster than what any commentator really has anticipated. And the reasons are very obvious. This entire awe or fear that some generations have of technology, I think the emerging generations in India have consistently rejected that. They take to newer technologies and newer techniques quite easily. People do realize that paper currency and excessive use of paper currency is to the larger detriment of any society. In fact, one of the great advantages of what has been going on would be that India moves towards a less cash economy. There would have been crime even before cash or currency was invented. And if it tomorrow gets eliminated, there probably will be crime thereafter also. But excessive paper currency itself facilitates it. It makes it easier. It's a currency which has no history or name attached to it. It has anonymity to it. And I think as we move towards a society where we reduce the amount of paper currency banking transactions, digitized transactions, they are going to increase in larger volumes. And for telecom companies like Airtel and other telecom companies to get into this business is quite natural. We have the traditional brick and mortar branches of banks, we have banking correspondents, we have the ATMs. But over the last 2.5 decades, telecom companies have built up an infrastructure of servicing their customers, which numerically matches very well with the kind of conventional banking structures that we have. And since this is the technology which they really control, and this business of banking, taking deposits, transferring money, is something which is incidental to the technology that they are masters of. And if we actually look at the numbers which were just being mentioned in the presentation, compared to the conventional banking structures that we have,